Hello friends, and welcome back to Darkest True Crime Headlines. Today we're going to start with updates from the tragic quadruple homicide in Moscow, Idaho, and from there we're going to move on to some general Darkest True Crime Headlines from the past week and month. So the first of our 6 articles tonight is Statement from the Family of Idaho Student Murders Suspect Brian Kohberger. Brian's family statement, and this was made January 1st of 2023. They say, first and foremost, we care deeply for the 4 families who have lost their precious children. There are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel, and we pray each day for them. We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family, we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions. We respect privacy in this matter as our family, and the family suffering loss can move forward through the legal process. This is very professional, tactically wise, everything. They're not getting involved. Of course, they are. It's absolutely true. They're losing a son. If this is true, and if the criminal justice system finds him guilty, then they are losing a son as well. And this is, I can't render any negative judgment. It's well done on their part. So, from this article, 4 students at the University of Idaho were killed on November 13th, 2022, at a rental home in the University of Moscow's Idaho campus. Following an investigation lasting nearly 7 weeks, 28-year-old Brian Kohberger, a PhD candidate studying criminal justice and criminology at nearby Washington State University, was arrested and charged with their murders. And this is actually quite a good summary. All these links will be in the description if you'd like to read yourself. If I stop reading before something that you're curious about, please investigate these yourself. That's what I encourage. I'm just reading the same sources as you. Wow. So, just from this article, it says, Carrie Rawson, daughter of Dennis Rader, the infamous serial killer known as BTK. And if you know anything about true crime, that's one of the ones where I recommend, if you're like a normal person and easily traumatized by bad stories, don't research him. That's one of the true crime things where I read about him and then I felt, I kind of carried it with me, and it was painful. So be careful. So Carrie Rawson, daughter of Dennis Rader, the infamous serial killer known as BTK, says she thinks it was smart of Kohberger's family to acknowledge the victims. Both smart and respectful. Because, we talk a lot about the killers, and we talk less about the victims, and it's of course not right. That's not fair. Moving on to our second article about these Idaho killings. This is from Insider. Brian Kohberger went to medical appointment 4 days after Idaho murders. Staff remembered him as especially charming. And a few outlets have actually picked up on this story. So, So he and people are saying, because he's a criminal justice PhD, as a part of his cover, people are saying that he continued to make like mundane appointments and to act normal at them as a cover, as an alibi. And several outlets are saying that he was great, that he was a charmer, that he was a smooth talk, like not a smooth talker, that has a connotation, but that he was charming, he was memorable in a good way, exactly like you would want to be in an alibi. Now, so this article reads, the top bullet points under the image here. Brian Kohberger continued his routine after 4 Idaho students were killed. Which, unconspicuous, this is me now editorializing. If he's innocent, then of course he did, but the media has already really turned against him, and I have to say in my heart of hearts that it seems like it's given a lot of people Bundy vibes, like he practices the craft of messing up people's lives and trying to get away with it. Maybe this is just a big misunderstanding. I'll never convict somebody before they're properly convicted. But the media is turning against him for sure. That's all I can say for certain. And it does look bad in some ways. And you'll see in this next story what I mean. The media is tracking down his Tinder dates, his ex-Tinder dates. We'll talk about that in a second. It looks bad. If I was innocent somehow and I was switched in his position, I would be very upset and angry because it looks bad, and I'm not sure that defense attorney is going to be able to swing things in his favor again. But so anyway, to continue from this article, and I apologize for the editorial. Brian Kohberger continued his routine after 4 Idaho students were killed. Kohberger went to a medical appointment, graded schoolwork, and greeted his neighbors. So police talked to everyone in his life. He went to a medical appointment, he graded schoolwork, and greeted his neighbors. He kept going to his job. His neighbors saw him. He seemed fine. And the staff of an appointment. But that shows how deep the police have gone into this prosecuting's office has now turned his life inside out. And it says some who interacted with him remained chatty, even when fear spread in the community. So that's the mood. That's the zeitgeist right now around Brian Kohberger, for what that's worth. And I realize that I have described it as a media circus before, but that this had reached its maximum when I saw this. This is from the New York Post. Links in the description. Woman details Tinder date with Idaho suspect Brian Kohberger in viral TikTok video. She claims she went on a date with him, said the 28-year-old accused of brutally slaying 4 Idaho students invited himself into her apartment that kept trying to touch her, which is a classic kind of incel territory move, or, any kind of awkward. So there's a narrative forming, and, I'm not trying to disparage anyone in particular, but there is a narrative forming that he was a awkward kid in high school and that he became like a Sigma male, like aggressive, he took to the internet narrative of become American Psycho and you can make more progress in this topsy-turvy world. And, I was an awkward kid in high school too. I understand that crime and punishment mentality where you feel like a Raskolnikov. And I've spoken about this in other audio mediums, about how angry young men should read Crime and Punishment because it teaches the folly in trying to lash out at the world. But I know what they're talking about when they talk about a guy who invites himself over to the apartment and keeps trying to touch her. It's a man with woman issues, if this witness is to be believed, and I'm just an observer. But she says she went on a date with Brian Kohberger, says she really only chatted with him briefly before they met up to go to the movies. That's very common, of course. That's how dates work these days. You try somebody on. Now Kohberger is being held in Moscow, Idaho, charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary in the brutal November slayings. There was one more quote that I wanted to cover from her, where she said something about he mentioned that she had birthing hips, which plays into a certain archetype, which, of a man with kind of twisted, inverted traditional values, where he wants to return to an area where he is or a time where he is a king. Again, this is all conjecture. So let's leave it at that. The media tide is definitely turning against this suspect, and it seems like he and the family are being tight-lipped, which is the correct and right and justifiable thing to do when the whole nation is turning their eyes to you in an accusatory way. That's what you have to do. And so I respect that. I will, if he's found innocent, if there was some drifter who did this and this guy was just completely maligned, I will be the first one to help him set up that GoFundMe to get his life back on track. But it does look bad, and most major news outlets in the world are picking up on this story. All right, and now we're going to cover just as promised, some darkest true crime headlines from recent weeks and months. This one actually incredibly recent. This was posted today. And this kind of broke my heart in a way. I mean, it's very sad, and it's not the first time that I've heard of a story like this happening. This is from the Daily Beast, which not my favorite source, but they do report actively on some things that I don't find articles about otherwise. So this reports California deputy public defender slain on Mexican vacation, per officials. And an attorney working for the Orange County Public Defender's Office was killed on Saturday while celebrating his first wedding anniversary with his wife in Mexico, California officials said. Elliot D. Blair, a 33-year-old assistant public defender, died in Rosarito Beach, a popular resort town close to Mexico's northern border. Wow, so this is happening in resort towns now. It's incredibly troubling. County Public Defender Martin Schwartz said in a statement given to the Orange County Register. It was not a clear, and this is important, I'm going to editorialize again, this is an important part. It was not immediately clear how Blair was killed, but a GoFundMe set up on behalf of his family said that he had been the victim of, quote, a brutal crime, unquote. So, no details. And if you look at this article, you'll see they're like a young, happy couple. It's, I don't know, this especially kind of like gets me in the gut because he's about my age and, yeah, going on a vacation, trying to celebrate maybe the beginning of this part of his life, and I'll try to follow this. I'll try to see what exactly happened. These things always unfold. Maybe they always unfold interesting. They always unfold maybe a little differently than you might expect. Sometimes, there was another story about a hotel room invasion by just a random person in Louisiana, and a tourist was killed and his wife hid in the bathroom. Sometimes it is truly random. And God only knows in this case, but this whole article, when you see it just glowing, everyone misses this dearly departed. It doesn't get better, I'm afraid. This next article, I actually couched it in as the second in 3 of the random of these darkest true crime headlines. But this is only from 2 days ago, and this is a woman suing. This is in Louisiana. A police informant essayed twice, and if you follow YouTube at all, you know what that means. It involves violence of the worst nature. You can read this article if you still don't understand what I mean. So a police informant essayed twice during an undercover drug buy in Louisiana has filed a lawsuit alleging her law enforcement handlers failed to monitor her in real time and allowed the attack to play out, despite concerns over how long she was inside a known stash house. So, to summarize, this is from AP News, by the way. And come after me. Let me know in the comments if I forget to source or cite anything, because I'm trying to be a journalist, a proper journalist, and cite these things. So, let me know if I say anything and you're curious where that source came from. But the summary here is that the police in some areas will work with low-level convicts who have a criminal reputation in some way, or maybe don't. Maybe just the police have leverage on them. They will send these people out as informants, as we know, as from TV and movies and documentaries have taught us. They'll send these informants out, but, in understaffed, they exist. I'll just say, in corrupt establishments and understaffed establishments. I'm not trying to put blame on anyone, but in situations where there's not proper oversight, these situations get terrible, and then the informants are the ones that get burned. So in this case, a woman was sent by the police with under surveillance to buy drugs, to establish a drug buy, and she was essayed twice, and the police were not watching that carefully, so she was essentially held in confinement against her will in a criminal way, while under, I'm not sure if employment is the exact proper term, but while under directive of her local police station, possibly with leverage because of a criminal charge against her. This actually also debuted today. There's so much going on in the world that I can pick up 3 horrifying stories from today, yesterday, and the day before. Brace yourself. This one is from Fox News. Texas man confesses to decapitating newlywed, quote, undocumented wife. Per report. A Texas man was ordered held on $500,000 bail for allegedly murdering and decapitating his newlywed bride inside the home they shared on his family's property, according to reports, just minutes into the gruesome killing. Surveillance video seemingly captured 21-year-old Jared James Dykes stealing a beer from a convenience store, just minutes after the killing. Well, I suppose if after you've done that, you're feeling a little brazen in the first place. Sorry, this is editorializing. Let me know as well in the comments if there's any ambiguity about when I switch into my own voice versus when I'm reading from an article, because, again, I'm trying to do this as clean and as, I want this to be useful. I want this to be like, if people want to look back, that it's very clear what I'm reporting. And then he cracked the beer in the parking lot per this article. He had just married 21-year-old Angie Diaz in October. County sheriff described the victim as an undocumented woman who worked as counter help at a local business. So, I mean, this just seems like, how do you describe it? The very poor in South Texas. The local people, and this guy's sorry, I'm trying not to swear, is a GD psycho. Never excusable. I think that, this seemed like it was picked up by Fox, and the fact that she's undocumented clearly plays a role. But I would argue that it plays a role in that that's a way for him to influence her. Like, that's a card he can play against her. I don't know. We would have to do much more research on their relationship and how it worked and the moments leading up to this. But the fact is that he decapitated his wife, and that's not excusable. I would argue that the rest of this is additional information, unless the details bear out that that's something about her being undocumented or anything like that. This seems like a border town relationship. I'm looking at this marriage picture. They were married by Waller County Judge in October 2022. I don't know how the local laws there work. I know marriage requirements, but they were legally married, and then he murdered her, and that's the main thing. So very sad. So my friends, I'll sign off tonight by just reminding everyone that the world has always been this way. There's always been great darkness, but there's also potential for great light, and to do the right thing, to make that choice today. If you made it to this point in the video, please like and subscribe. It helps me produce more content like this. If you appreciate my voice, and if you don't, leave it in the comments and tell me how I can improve. Thank you all for joining me here tonight, and I wish you a safe and happy tomorrow. Good night.